Today we are modding my buddy's 2013 Mazdaspeed 3.
We're going to show you a complete guide to get your Mazdaspeed 3 running super reliably, but also get the few extra ponies to make this thing just that much more fun to drive.
Really quick, at 1,000 subscribers we are doing a giveaway, so if you guys want to get entered in to win a travel kit toolbox, smash that subscribe button. I've got one in the back of my truck. I take it with me everywhere, especially when I'm out at the racetrack. They come in super handy, so if you guys want to get entered to win one, smash that subscribe button. Now let's get back to the content.
Now the first step before we get into anything, we're going to remove this plastic cover that covers your top mount intercooler. It's two 10mm bolts, and then that cover will come right off. So let's get that out of the way, and then I'll show you guys what we'll be doing. All right, now that that cover's out of the way, we're going to cover the few things you must do to your Mazdaspeed to make sure that it's running 100% reliably. And the first thing you want to do is come in here to your high pressure fuel pump, and we want to replace those internals. Now for the high pressure fuel pump internals, there's going to be a couple options you have, running from Corksport, Cobb, and Autotech. All three of them do the exact same thing. All three of them are really reliable. We went with Autotech just because we could get free shipping on our order. There will be a link in the description to these internals if you guys want to grab them for yourself. Now the next thing to get your speed running reliably is to remove this old air intake, and we're going to go ahead and replace the intake hose and the short ram intake. Again, there's quite a few options. Today we are going with Cobb's full intake, so that's going to be the inlet hose and the short ram intake. Now the high pressure fuel pump internals and the intake, those are going to be your number one priority. Once you get those going, your car is going to be super happy. You're going to be getting the correct amount of fuel, and you're going to get some nice cold air into your engine. Today, to go along with those two things, we're going to be replacing the stock bypass valve, and we're going to be throwing on a Cobb access port. That way we can throw a tune on there to make sure that the car is running properly.
Now the next item to get your Mazdaspeed running properly that we don't have is going to be a catback exhaust. Although it is not required for the tune we are going to be running, it is a good thing to have. Plus it's going to sound a lot better while you're ripping through the gears running through traffic. So let's go ahead, let's get started. We'll show you guys how to throw in the high pressure fuel pump internals, show you how to throw on the intake and bypass valve, and then we're gonna tune the car.
So our first step to the high pressure fuel pump is to come to our fuse box and remove the fuel pump fuse that's located right here. To make sure you're removing the correct fuse, go ahead and check out the bottom of your cover, and it'll show you the correct one. We want to come in here and remove this one that says circuit. Our next step is to start the car and run it until it runs out of fuel. All right, now that the car won't start, we want to come and get access to this high pressure fuel pump. We're going to go ahead and take off our top mount intercooler. It's going to be three 12mm bolts and two hose clamps, one connecting to the turbo and one connecting down here to your intake manifold. You will also have to remove these hoses to the bypass valve. That way they can all come off as one unit. Once we have the top mount intercooler off, we are also going to take our battery out so that it's out of the way for the intake. So now that the top mount intercooler is off, we're actually going to replace this bypass valve. It's two bolts here, and it goes right back on. There is one hose connecting to your intake, and then the one hose here that connects right into your intake manifold. So we're going to go ahead and remove the intake and battery. The battery is kind of obvious. In the bottom of the tray there are three bolts there. The ECU, you want to be very careful with these plugs. There's a little push pin right here, and then you want to push these plastic pieces up, and then they'll come straight up and out. As for the intake, take off your mass airflow sensor, remove that one bolt here to loosen the clamp, and then your intake box should come straight out. Once we have access to the high pressure fuel pump, there's going to be three star bolts along the high pressure fuel pump. We need to remove all three of those, and then this whole thing will come right off. All right, now that we've got those three bolts removed, there are these two little hoses that need to come off. It's just a nice easy Phillips screwdriver on that yellow and blue piece right in there. Be careful because they can break. All right, so I told a little fib. We do have to remove the turbo inlet hose to get the high pressure fuel pump out. It's super easy. There is one 10mm bolt here holding it in place. We have a hose clamp that's right down here that connects to the blow off valve, which if you have it removed here, it'll come out anyways. And the last one is a Phillips down here that is connected to the turbo. Now that we have a lot of access to our high pressure fuel pump, the last thing keeping it in, it's going to be tucked right here this big nut there, we need to loosen that. That is your fuel hose coming from the bottom into the high pressure fuel pump. It is a 19 millimeter. You got to get that one removed so that we can take out the high pressure fuel pump. All right, now we've got the high pressure fuel pump out. Go ahead and plug all your open holes. That way nothing gets inside the motor. And here is our high pressure fuel pump. So the internals we are replacing is this guy right here. We're gonna have to unbolt it and then put in the new ones. All right, so to get the internals out, you're going to use a deep socket 18 millimeter and a vise, just like so. And we're going to 18 millimeter, just break this loose, and then you want to hand twist it the rest of the way out. The next step is going to be getting your fingernail or something in here so that we can get this top portion out. The next step is to go ahead and just pull those out. All right, and the next step with the new ones is to reverse it. So let's go ahead and put them back in. Now that we've got the clips pushed back in, like so, go ahead and hand tighten it, and then make sure you tighten it down to torque specs. And I'll put it up on the screen here what the torque specs are. All right, now to put the high pressure fuel pump back in, basically reverse what we did. Once we get it back in, we'll check in back with you guys and we'll show you how to put your intake back in, whether you're going to stock or a new one. We'll throw the battery back in, and then we should be able to start the tune process and get this baby running. All right, the next step of getting it back together, throwing the turbo inlet hose back on. This portion is going to connect down in there to the turbo. You can kind of see right here. All right, you can see there's a blue turbo inlet hose installed now. Make sure you tighten up that back screw again, and don't forget the little intake hose that goes on the back there as well. We went ahead and we threw on the bypass valve hose to the inlet as well. Now we just want to put the intake on and get everything else mounted up. Should be pretty easy. Let's go ahead and throw it all together. All right, now with the intake in, on your stock intake, you're gonna have to steal this plastic part out of the intake. It'll be found in this rubber tubing right here. We need that to connect to the top of the motor. So with the intake back in, don't forget to plug in all of your hoses. We got the top mount intercooler in. Don't forget to bolt those in. Don't forget the hoses that are right here and the bypass valve hose. Next, you're gonna want to get your mass airflow sensor out of the stock box. Put it back in here. If you're like us and you bought it used, you're gonna have to get the correct bolts for the Cobb mass airflow housing. Unfortunately, the stock ones don't work, so we're gonna run to Ace. We'll throw those in, and then it's just putting the battery back in, and we should be all good to go. Fire this baby up and get the tune running. All right, now that everything is back together, we're gonna go ahead and flash the E-tune, and then let's hear this puppy roar. Alright guys, that is going to do it for today's video. We got my buddy's Mazdaspeed 3 all dialed in. That thing is running super smooth and it sounds amazing with that bypass valve. He does plan to get an exhaust just to get that Mazdaspeed rumble that sounds so good. But let us know in the comments section below what you'd like to see done on the Speed 3 and even my Mazdaspeed 6 track car. Don't forget to like the video if you guys enjoyed the content and smash that subscribe button. We're doing a giveaway at 1,000 subscribers and I know you guys want to get entered, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.